Black homeless veteran on trial. When judge hears his name, entire courtroom rises. New York City. Winter. 5:14 a.m. The city was still asleep, wrapped in a blanket of wind and gray mist. Cold breath leaked from alleyways like the city was exhaling a secret. Neon signs blinked half awake. Trash bags rustled in the silence like whispering ghosts. At the corner of Flatbush and Atlantic, beneath the hollow glow of a flickering street lamp, a figure moved, slow, deliberate, shivering. Walter Jennings was not dressed for the season. He wore a torn military jacket, the camouflage faded and soaked at the shoulders. One sleeve hung loose where the fabric had given up. A knit cap clung to his head, but couldn't hide the thick white tufts of hair curling out beneath it. His shoes were mismatched, duct tape covering one toe. His eyes were dull but alive, sharp but weary, like a man who had once known purpose but had long since misplaced it. He shuffled along the edge of the sidewalk, pushing a shopping cart that screeched with every inch. Inside the cart were scraps. Cans, crushed bottles, a crumpled photo frame without a photo. A beat-up harmonica dangled from a string tied around the handle. As he reached a dumpster beside a deli, he paused, looked around. Then carefully, respectfully, he opened the lid and peered inside. He didn't dig like an animal. He searched like a man trying not to forget his dignity. He pulled out a half-eaten sandwich, wrapped in foil, wiped it clean with his sleeve, and placed it in his coat. Then he reached for a soda can, crushed but unpierced. From across the street, headlights flared. A squad car. It slowed. The engine purred like a warning. Then the door opened and a young officer stepped out, white, clean-shaven, barely 30. His name tag read H. Miller. He approached quickly, hand on his belt, eyes sharp with suspicion. "Sir, step away from the dumpster." Walter raised his hands slowly. His voice was raspy but polite. "I'm just passing through, officer, not causing any harm. You were reported trespassing and disturbing the peace. I need you to vacate the area now." Walter nodded. "All right, just let me. No more warnings, I'm detaining you." Before Walter could reply, the officer turned him around and snapped the cuffs on. The cold metal bit into his skin. Walter winced but did not resist. "Do you know how many times I've had to move you out of this district?" the officer muttered. "You people just don't listen." Walter lowered his head, his dignity folded inward like a collapsed tent. They led him to the back seat of the patrol car. As it drove off, his cart was left behind on the sidewalk, turning slowly in the wind like a forgotten tombstone. 2 hours later, Brooklyn Courthouse. The hallway buzzed with tired lawyers, interns, and yawning officers. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead like angry bees. Coffee cups in trembling hands. Paperwork stacked like battlefields. Walter sat alone in the holding area. He was hunched forward, his cuffed hands resting between his knees. The coat on his back looked even older under the courtroom lights. His skin was dry, cracked near the knuckles. On one wrist, a faded tattoo barely visible beneath the grime, USMC, United States Marine Corps. No one looked at him. No one asked why he smelled like rain and rust. No one cared where he had slept the night before. Inside Courtroom 4B, Judge Elizabeth Monroe adjusted her glasses and flipped through the morning docket. She was in her late 50s, sharp jaw, calm voice, dressed in black robes that fit her like armor. She had ruled this courtroom for 15 years with discipline and fairness. Her clerk leaned over and whispered, "Next case, minor charge, disturbing the peace, homeless man picked up in Prospect Heights." She nodded. "Call the defendant." The bailiff opened the door. Case number 34275 People versus Walter Jennings. Walter stepped forward escorted by 2 guards. He moved slowly as if gravity had betrayed him. When he looked up at the judge, something flickered behind his eyes. Not fear, not shame. Something like recognition without memory. Judge Monroe scanned the file in front of her. Her lips moved silently as she read the name. Then they froze. Her eyes locked onto the paper. Then they lifted. Slowly. Walter Jennings. She repeated the name aloud again, this time with weight. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the man in front of her for several seconds too long. The silence stretched. Her mind raced through memories dusted by time. Jennings. That name. Could not be. She rose slightly from her bench. Sir, did you serve in the military? Walter hesitated, a small nod. Yes, ma'am. Which branch? Marine Corps, ma'am, 20 years active duty. Her voice cracked almost imperceptibly. What was your rank? Staff Sergeant, retired. Where were you stationed? Desert Storm, ma'am, 1991, Operation Desert Saber. Her face went pale. A hand moved to her mouth. Then she slowly sat back down, but her eyes did not leave him. Her mind was no longer in the courtroom. It was thousands of miles away. In a desert. In a field hospital. In the sound of helicopters and the stench of smoke and antiseptic. Walter Jennings. Could it be him? She whispered again. My God. That morning the courtroom had been empty. Routine. Another case. Another poor soul dragged in from the streets. But now it was changing. Something sacred stirred in the air like a curtain lifting before a revelation. And the man in rags, standing in silence under fluorescent lights, was about to become something no one expected. A name spoken. A memory awoken. A city about to remember the soldier it had forgotten. Brooklyn Courthouse. Courtroom 4B. 8:42 a.m. The atmosphere inside the courtroom had shifted. What began as a routine minor hearing now carried a strange electricity. Like the room itself was holding its breath. Judge Elizabeth Monroe stared down at Walter Jennings, her fingers trembling slightly as they gripped the edges of the bench. Her clerk noticed the sudden change in her demeanor. Is everything all right, Your Honor? She didn't answer immediately. The defendant's name. I need to confirm something. She turned toward Walter, her voice quieter now, almost reverent. Did you serve in the 3rd Battalion during Desert Storm? Walter squinted, trying to place her face. His voice was low, gravelly from decades of disuse. Yeah. 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. Echo Company. We were in Kuwait near Al-Khafji. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. She looked at the bailiff. Bring me the defendant's full military record. Now, the courtroom murmured. The public defender seated next to Walter shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a simple misdemeanor. She held up a hand sharply. Silence. Walter tilted his head, unsure. You look familiar, ma'am. I've seen you before, haven't I? Her voice cracked. You saved someone. My brother, Thomas Monroe. He was hit during an ambush, a Jeep explosion. She looked directly into his eyes. You carried him through sniper fire, dragged him for half a mile to the extraction point. He lived because of you. Walter blinked, then exhaled sharply. His body stiffened as the memory punched its way through the decades. Thomas Monroe. He was just a kid, barely 19. The courtroom had gone silent. Even the stenographer had stopped typing. The air was thick with tension and awe. Judge Monroe's eyes welled with tears. I was there, in the field hospital, when they flew him back. They told me a black sergeant stayed behind to get him out, refused evacuation. I never knew your name, until today. Walter bowed his head. Shame flickered across his face. That was a long time ago, ma'am. You saved my family. And now you're here. In chains? He didn't speak. She turned to the room. This man is a decorated war hero. He was awarded the Bronze Star. His name is etched on the memorial wall in Arlington for valor. And now we're trying him for sleeping in a doorway? The prosecutor rose, unsure. Your Honor, I understand the emotional connection, but the charges… She cut him off. You understand nothing. Do you know how many black veterans returned from war to no jobs, no homes, no medical care? We thank them with parades, then throw them away when the crowd goes home. The bailiff returned, holding a thick envelope. She tore it open and scanned it. Walter Jennings, Staff Sergeant. Served in the Persian Gulf, Somalia, and Kosovo. Discharged honorably. PTSD diagnosis. Medical neglect. Denied VA housing 3 times due to lack of resources. Her voice shook. This is not justice. This is systemic failure. The public defender turned to Walter, stunned. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Walter shrugged slightly. Didn't seem to matter. Judge Monroe stood. Her voice rose with force now, no longer restrained. Bail is waived. All charges are dismissed. She looked around the room. But that is not enough. She turned to the gallery. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this man's behalf? For a moment there was silence. Then a woman stood. Young. African American. Late 20s. She held a leather folder in her arms. My name is Maya Robinson. I'm a law student at NYU. I studied the homelessness crisis among black veterans for my thesis. I know his story. I interviewed soldiers who served with him. He's a legend in Echo Company. They called him the Shield, because he always put himself between danger and his men. The gallery began to shift. Heads turned. A ripple of awareness spread like a wave. Another man stood. I served with Jennings in Somalia. He pulled me out of a minefield. My leg's gone now, but I'm alive because of him. Then another. He kept morale up when everyone else gave up. We'd follow him into hell. The judge whispered, You already did. Walter sat frozen in the middle of it all. These voices, these faces, these pieces of a life he thought had disappeared like smoke in the wind. He looked around, dazed. Why now? Judge Monroe stepped down from the bench. Her voice was no longer official, it was human. Because it's time people remembered. She turned to the room. This man carried others through fire. Through gunfire, landmines, desert storms. He should not be living on the streets of the nation he risked his life for. She faced Walter again. You were never invisible, Staff Sergeant. We just stopped looking. Walter wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. And in that moment the courtroom stood still. A hush fell like snowfall. Then slowly, almost uncertainly, the entire gallery began to rise. First Maya, then the fellow veterans, then the officers, then the jury box, then the clerk, one by one, until everyone was on their feet, standing, in silence, for a man they had forgotten, a man who had never asked for anything, a man whose name, now spoken aloud, had become a mirror held up to the soul of a nation. Brooklyn Veterans Resource Center. 10:17 a.m. The door creaked open slowly. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The scent of fresh paint and coffee drifted through the air. Walter Jennings stepped inside, his posture straighter than before, though still cautious. His coat had been replaced by a donated wool peacoat. His hair had been trimmed, his beard cleaned up. He still walked with a quiet humility, but something in his eyes had changed. Hope, tentative, unfamiliar, but real. Maya Robinson stood waiting near the front desk, holding a clipboard, her smile wide and genuine. "Morning, Sergeant." Walter offered a half-smile. "Just Walter now. Not today." She gestured behind her. "There's someone who'd like to see you." From a hallway emerged Judge Elizabeth Monroe. No robe this time, just a blazer and scarf, soft colors that softened her usually stern face. Walter's eyebrows lifted. "You again." She stepped closer. "Me again." He looked down, almost shy. "I don't know what to say." "Try, 'Thank you for the second chance,'" she said, her voice warm. "Then go out there and live like you earned it." He chuckled softly. "I did earn it." She grinned. "Damn right you did." Maya handed him a folder. "Here's everything. Housing voucher, fast-track medical benefits, VA therapy appointment scheduled. And this," she pulled out a laminated card. "Veterans Honor ID, valid for life." Walter stared at it like it was a sacred relic. "I never thought I'd hold one again. You should have had it all along." He took a deep breath, looked around the center. A few other veterans were seated at tables, some in wheelchairs, others with canes, others with haunted eyes like his once were. But now, they all nodded toward him with respect. He was one of them again. Maybe he always had been. He just needed the world to see it. Later that week, downtown Brooklyn, a town hall meeting. Judge Monroe stood at a podium. Behind her was a banner, "Justice for Forgotten Heroes," a new city initiative. Beside her sat Walter, now wearing a clean dress shirt, slacks, and his Marine Corps pin on the collar. His hands folded calmly in his lap. Dozens filled the room. Press, city council members, veterans' families. Cameras rolled. Judge Monroe spoke into the mic. "Walter Jennings is not just one man. He is thousands. Black veterans who fought for freedom abroad, only to be abandoned at home. This is not just a failure of policy. It is a moral disgrace." She turned to Walter. When this courtroom rose for him, it wasn't just gratitude. It was an apology. One we owe to all who wore the uniform and came back to indifference. Maya stepped forward. "Today we announce the Jennings Bill to ensure every homeless veteran in New York is automatically reviewed for full VA benefits, mental health support, and transitional housing. Effective immediately." Applause thundered through the room. Flashes from cameras lit up the stage. Walter cleared his throat, stepped to the microphone. His voice, though gravelly, carried strength. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't want a spotlight. I just wanted to sleep without getting arrested, to eat without digging in a trash can, to be seen. That's all." He looked across the room. "I don't speak for all veterans, but I will say this: we don't want your pity. We want your respect. We earned that, and we want you to remember us before we're gone." Silence fell. Then standing ovation. But Walter didn't bask in it. He stepped back quietly, eyes lowered. Still humble. Still Walter. 1 month later, Prospect Heights. Dawn. The same corner where Walter was arrested now looked different. The deli had repainted its wall. A new plaque had been installed nearby, in honor of Staff Sergeant Walter Jennings, USMC, hero, veteran, never forgotten. Asterisk asterisk. Walter stood before it alone. No cameras. No speeches. Just him. He took a slow breath, sipping the morning air like it was the first time. A young black boy passed by on his way to school. He glanced at Walter, then at the plaque, then back again. Are you him? Walter looked down, amused. Guess I am. The boy nodded. My uncle's in the Marines. He says guys like you are legends. Walter smiled gently. Tell him I said Semper Fi. The boy saluted and kept walking. Walter stood there a little longer, then walked off slowly toward the sunrise. Not as a ghost, not as a case number, but as a man finally remembered. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful, real-life inspired dramas about hope, justice, and the human spirit. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. And if you believe this message matters, share it. You never know who might need it today. Thank you for watching.